Okay, so today we're going to a gym called Athletes Authority, which they run a performance testing thing where we test things like counter movement jump on force plates, sprint time. There's a Nordic test for your hamstrings. I think VO2 max. A whole bunch of tests so that we can see kind of what I am lacking in my current training, what things I need to work on, what things I'm currently doing well. And yeah, that's kind of the reason why I want to do it, is so I can see what stuff I am lacking in my training, what I'm good at, see how I stack up against actual pro athletes in Australia. And yeah, that's kind of the main reason. So the test I'm most excited for is the counter movement jumps and the sprint test. I'll obviously be best at the counter movement jumps. I don't know how good I'll be at the sprint, but I'm curious as to how fast I am. I'm not looking forward to the VO2 max because that is going to destroy me. And then the rest of it, I'm pretty keen on majority of it, but yeah, definitely the jump and the sprint test.
So I just wanted to do a quick voiceover here to explain that they didn't actually have a sprint test. I just took a guess that they had that based off a performance testing thing they did for their athletes. It was a bit of a competition where they had a sprint time. But yeah, they didn't have that for this test, but they did have a whole bunch of other tests that I didn't know about. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this video. Alright, so up first is the squat jump. So with the squat jump, what we're doing is we're squatting down to the point where we would jump from, pausing, and then jumping up again. So I have to make sure that I hit a point where I don't then squat down even further right before I jump, because the purpose of this is to eliminate the stretch shortening cycle, and just see how much force I produce, how quickly I produce it, and how high I get from a stop. And yeah, so with that, I did 3 attempts. My highest was 51.5 centimeters, which was actually my first jump. And that puts me in the high end range, to their green zone, which is basically anything over 45 centimeters. So that scored good, was happy with that. I mean, happy that I'm in the green zone, but I still want that to be much, much higher. And then what you'll see after in the next one is the counter movement jump. So, your standard jump, all these are done with hands on hips to eliminate any sort of arm swing. So we know it's all the strength and power coming straight from my legs. So the counter movement jump was 55.7 centimeters was my best one, again, which was in their green zone, their top end, anything over 51. That was again on my first jump, but my eccentric utilization ratio, which is the relationship between the both, is only a 1.08, which falls in their middle range, their orange zone, which is anything between 1.05 and 1.15. So basically, I am not super efficient at eccentrically loading and then turning that around and jumping back up again. So basically what that means is that I have the force and the ability to jump a lot higher than I am if I can just utilize that a lot better. So basically, I need to be able to eccentrically load quicker and turn it around quicker. So up next, we're testing my RSI, which is my reactive strength index. And what this basically does is it works out the difference between how long you spent on the ground and how long you're in the air. So the number is the amount of times you were in the air times on the ground. So like a 3 would be you're in the air for 3 times as long as you are on the ground. So the higher the number, the better. I scored a 3.54 on my best one, which was again in the upper zone, the green zone, which was over 3. He recommended trying to get it up to 4. He said 3.5 is quite good, but trying to get that up to 4 would be around that elite level. So this test is has a lot to do with how elastic your tendons are. So he was saying that I am quite springy, which shows in my high RSI score. But again, going back to the squat jump counter movement jump, when we add in using my force, I don't quite utilize that quite well in those movements. So that's something to really focus on in the next training cycle. What he's doing here is he's just explaining all that about RSI, what all the numbers mean. And basically we just kept going because I kept scoring higher and higher. I scored 3.54. Then we did one more to see. That number went down, which is this one more that we're doing here. So that one you just saw was 3.54. And then this one was slightly less. So then we stop from here and we go on to the next test. So now we are doing the hop and stick, which is just basically a single leg hop, one hop. But the caveat is you have to stick the landing. So I couldn't just jump as hard as I can and fall through it. You had to stick the landing. So with this, my left got 2.39 meters and my right got 2.41. So pretty similar. Not too much of a difference there. Again, that was in the green zone, and which was anything over 2.14. So far, with all the tests I've done, which have all been some sort of jumping related, I've scored in the top end zone. So obviously still want to improve on this, but pretty happy with how I've been scoring for these. And yeah, not much of a disparity between my right and my left leg for these ones. So up next after this is the lateral bound. With this, you had to stick it again. Actually, sorry, no, you didn't. You didn't have to stick it. So the lateral bound again. So for my left it was 2.22, and for my right it was 2.16. So again, still pretty close. And that was both legs were above the target, the high end green zone of 2.14. So those again going pretty well. Makes sense. I have a relatively decent background in plyometrics, and I had been doing a few plyometrics leading up to this test as well. So now we're going on to the triple hop. So for the triple hop, it was sets on the right and left leg. Pretty much I just kept going as the distance went up, and then as soon as I did a jump where the distance went down, we stopped. So for this one, and this is where I can see that my right leg might have a lot of power as it got more in just the one all-out jump, but my left is definitely more elastic. So my left got 8.02 meters, which was apparently quite good, cracking into the 8 meter mark, but my right got 7.82. So 0.2 difference there. Again, this is all in meters, so that was quite a decent difference. Nothing crazy, but still a fair difference, which makes sense. My left leg's always been has always been better with plyos. I think that's mainly because I used to jump 1 foot, and that was off my left because I'm right-handed. So layups, all that stuff was off my left leg. And I can feel it when I do the plyos too. So again, all of that's in the green zones and stuff. So takeaway from that is I'm quite springy. All my plyo type contacts and all that stuff are good. I still want to get them a lot better, but they don't necessarily need to be one of the main focuses for a bit moving forward. So, I mean, honestly, I probably still will have like the next cycle still relatively plyo heavy, because that does still help with rate of force development and that eccentric loading. Just depends what kind of plyos that I do. So next we are moving on to the max effort mid-thigh pull. This was so intense. So this one actually surprised me. I didn't think I was going to do crazy well with this. I thought I was like going to be quite springy, but not very good with my max force production. But I actually managed to pull a peak of 4,891 newtons, which when you convert that, converts to 499 kilos. And my target, the target is in like the high-end green zone thing, was 3,762. So I absolutely destroyed that one. And relative to my body weight, I produced 59 kilos of force per kilo of body weight. 59 newtons of force per kilo of body weight. And again, high-end zone for that was over 45, so I absolutely destroyed that. This was actually the only one where I checked the leaderboard, because the guy running it, Tom, said that it was quite a good score, and it ended up clocking on fifth in their leaderboards against pro athletes. So that was pretty cool. I thought I was gonna like kind of, go back and compare all my things to that leaderboard, but I didn't really want to keep running over each time and checking. So I decided didn't really need to worry about that. It's going to tell me what I'm good at, what I'm not good at anyway. Okay, so up next was the Nord board. I knew this was going to be tough because I suck at Nordics. Basically, there's little like force plate type things, force readers in those hooks that are on my ankles. I actually really liked doing the Nordics on this. I wish I had one of these. And it checks how much force each leg is using to hold my body weight. And I was piss poor with this one. So strength in the hamstrings, there was a huge disparity. My left was 373 and my right was 296. So I used my left a lot more than my right, which kind of makes sense because the reason why I'm so good with my left leg for plyometrics like bounds and stuff is because of my hamstrings. And so there was a huge disparity in that. But not only that, the marker for getting out of the red zone, the bottom zone, so this is my first red zone of the test, was 369. So I was well under that. So my, and basically that's like a range of body weight. So under 90% is that red zone. I had 81.57%. 90 to 100% is the orange, the middle zone. And then that high end green zone is anything over 100%. So pretty poor there. This means I need to do more hamstring work in the bent knee position. So by that I mean like stuff like Nordics or hamstring curls or sliders, hamstring slides is going to help with this a lot. Not so much RDLs. RDLs will help with overall hamstring strength, but the issue is, for me, is that bent position. So that's definitely something to work on. That was, very, very poor. So I am keen to fix that when it comes into the next program. Up next was max effort adductor squeeze and abduction. Push, I guess you'd call that one. So you squeeze in the middle as hard as you can, and then you push out as hard as you can. So adduction, I had a feeling this was going to be like pretty bad because I have notoriously had pretty weak adductors, and I've had problems with them, like kind of straining. And I was right. I was 398, 383 left to right. So the strength was pretty close, but under the red threshold of 451, so the low threshold. And as a percentage, you want to be anything under 110% is red, anything 110 to 120% is the middle, and anything over 120% is the green. And I was 95.23%. So adductors, hamstrings need a lot of work. after, so we kind of waved between in and out. Abduction was great. Got all green zones for that, which makes sense because I do a lot of glute work, especially glute med as well. So for that, it was, I'll just say the percentages, anything over 100%. I got 104.99%, so that was good. Could definitely still get it stronger because it's only just in the green zone, but that's good that that's quite strong. And now for the worst of them all, the one that I just knew I was going to do horribly in, and this was painful. One of the most painful things I've done for a long time. This was the VO2 max test. So it's an estimate of aerobic capacity and endurance qualities, which I don't do anything for, so I knew that was going to be bad. Red zone, bottom threshold under 50, which is 50 milliliters per kilogram. Middle range is 50 to 60, and green zone upper threshold is anything over 60. So mine was very poor. It was 43.5. Obviously, this stuff isn't as important because I don't play sport, but it can definitely help your training a lot. It can help with how you recover, not getting as gassed, like as out of breath between sets. So then the other one was my MMP, which is measured from this as well, which is the average wattage maintained across 3 minutes. So how much I can maintain power over that time. So it's kind of like power endurance. Anything under 319 is the low threshold, 319 to 383 is the mid, and over 383 is the high. I got 273, so very poor with that too. Basically what it was there was a number of like kind of strides or something that I had to try and stick to as he increased the resistance, and if I couldn't, then he would slowly reduce it to keep the strides up. And it was brutal. It felt like doing a minute at 90% effort, a minute at 95% effort, and then when you're already gassed and feel like you had nothing left, another minute. If I didn't have him yell at me to keep going, I would have quit because my quads were on fire. It's definitely more of a muscular endurance test. My lungs were actually fine, which is what I was most worried about. But my muscles were just absolutely burning. It was rough. So while the rest of this plays out, I'm basically just going to do a bit of a summary of the whole test. So to summarize with it, anything jumping related, so like max effort jumping, so like the squat jumps, counter movement jumps, anything plyos, like the drops or the RSI test or the hops or anything like that, I scored quite well in. But the difference between my counter movement jump and my squat jump shows that my counter movement jump could be a lot higher if I could utilize my force better when I am eccentrically loading and then jumping back up again. So that's something to improve. And then we've also got that my total force output, which we got in that mid-thigh pull, was apparently so much higher than what my jumping was. So it's like I can jump high, and I scored well over the green zone for the jumping, but with how much force I can produce, I could be jumping quite a lot higher. So he was saying that I use about 44% of my force when I'm jumping, and that should be around like 65%. The elites, like he's saying, like world class, like Usain Bolt would be using like 85, 90%. So that was really cool to know that I have the force production to jump a lot higher. I just have to be able to utilize it better. So that's going to be doing a lot more power work, a lot more jumping, sprints, basically just rate of force development. And then along with that, working on my hamstring strength, so getting my hamstring strength up, but also evening out between my left and right. So doing a lot more single leg work as well. So what I'm going to do over the next few programs is I'm going to vary a lot of stuff like some weighted jumps, some depth jumps, anything where I am overloading the eccentric in a more power focused way, so any sort of like jumping way, so that I can work on handling that better and then being able to turn that around and jump up. Because basically what happens is when you jump, you really quickly eccentrically load, and then there's a slight isometric contraction to stop all that, and then you basically reverse that into the concentric. And so I think what's happening is when I'm loading, I'm not kind of like stopping that force quick enough and then turning it around. So that's going to be some stuff to work on. I'll probably go do another one of these in I think like 12 to 16 weeks, and then hopefully I score a lot better. But I'll know that because my vert will have gone up in the next 12 to 16 weeks if this all goes to plan.